So now we've talked about Elon Musk gleefully trying to shut down USAID. We've talked about Musk and his team forcing out an uncooperative, in their view, career Treasury employee and gaining access to the department's closely held payment system. But today there was also new reporting about his efforts to hijack another agency, the Office of Personnel Management, which is basically the HR department for the entire federal government. You might remember that during the first week of the new administration, OPM rolled out a new system to email the entire federal government from a single email address. The next week, that system was used to send an email to roughly 2 million federal workers with an offer to resign. Musk sent a similar email with the same exact subject line to his employees shortly after taking over Twitter. Now, according to new reporting from investigative reporter Judd Legum and his new Substack Musk Watch, love the name, Musk-connected political hires installed at OPM have received, quote, unprecedented access to federal human resources databases containing sensitive personal information for millions of federal employees. This database contains social security numbers, dates of birth, salaries, home addresses, and job descriptions of all civil government workers, along with any disciplinary action that they have faced. One OPM staffer said, quote, they're looking through all the position descriptions to remove folks. USA Jobs, the federal government's official hiring site, was another system that Musk's associates were given access to. The database stores personal information provided by private individuals who have just applied for federal jobs. Regardless of whether the applicants went on to work for the government, it's still all in there. A former OPM director put it this way: What Musk is doing will put so many government employees at risk. It's not at all what the office is intended for. I just can't believe what I'm seeing. Me neither. One current OPM staffer added this: they have access to the code itself, which means they can make updates to anything that they want. There are also potential security risks. I mean, another OPM staffer said China and Russia are literally trying to hack us every day, and we just gave all this data over to somebody that's not been properly vetted. And if that doesn't sound concerning enough, the reporting goes on to detail that, quote, a new server being used to control these databases has been placed in a conference room that Musk's team is using as their command center. A staffer described the server as a piece of commercial hardware they believed was not obtained through the proper federal procurement process. Let's just say I have a lot of questions. I'm sure you do too. Lucky for us, Judd is standing by here in studio, and he joins me next. Judd is here with me now. He helped break that story. He's the author of the independent newsletter Popular Information and the news Substack Musk Watch, which is quite a topical topic these days. So let me just start. I just outlined before we took a break kind of some of your reporting and this really excellent piece today. Anything I missed? Anything people watching now should know or understand about what Musk has access to right now?
Yeah, one of the things that the sources at OPM who we spoke to write this story were talking about is this information is already being used to target people. The purge of all of the so-called DEI staffers, it was done by looking at the job descriptions that are in this database. And what is concerning is
I don't want to. I just want to help make sure I understand this. People watching understand this. So they looked at this sensitive personnel information and basically said that was a DEI hire. We're going to get rid of them. That sort of thing, or how did they use it?
This person is working on what they consider DEI issues, and it's not even necessarily that that's in their job title. You saw a report in the Department of Education. They're letting go of people who attended a training that had to do with DEI that was actually proposed by Betsy DeVos, who was the education secretary the first term. But it's these databases that they are pulling from to execute this purge. And then when you start thinking about, well, now they have access to medical information, potentially disciplinary information, all sorts of sensitive internal HR information that could then be used to do different kinds of purges down the line. So I think that's really the concern within OPM about all of this data kind of just free reign from Musk's associates over this data.
I mean, I can't emphasize enough. I've filled out these forms, how detailed these personnel forms are. It's so much information about people's lives. It sounds like you've outlined what you think they want to do with it. What do these officials think they want to do next with it? They've clearly been focused on what they see and define as addressing DEI, which is outrageous, but let's put this over here. What else they want to do with it next?
Well, I don't think anyone really knows for sure, because essentially a lot of the career staff has now been blocked out of these databases. So they've been given, Musk associates, including, a couple who've just graduated from high school, people who do not have much experience in anything, much less the government, have been granted really carte blanche access down to the source code of these databases, can do basically anything they want. The career staff has been locked out, but I think that there's concern inside the organization that this could all be pooled together. There could be the use of AI or other tools to identify potentially people who, are not in line with the ideology of this administration, and really to do this hollowing out of the federal government that we're already seeing.
From these officials you're talking to in OPM, what are they hoping? Are they hoping Congress does something? Are they hoping the courts do something? What are they hoping can happen to stop this?
They believe that the law is being violated at OPM, specifically that there are laws. These are technical people who are working on these databases, and they know that there are laws when they're setting up hardware, when they're setting up applications for these databases, where it has to go through a vetting process so that you make sure that you're not creating security vulnerabilities, not just sort of the internal vulnerabilities of there's somebody who's getting access to this data within the government who really doesn't need to, but also they were talking to me about how there are foreign adversaries on a daily basis who are seeking the information in these databases for espionage purposes, whatever purposes that foreign governments do, and that you're creating more and more vulnerabilities by essentially having huge, essentially all these single points of vulnerability when each of these individual associates of Elon Musk is getting this extraordinary access that essentially nobody had previously.
Judd, few people are following this and covering Elon Musk as closely as you. Thank you so much for being here, for writing this piece today, which is fascinating. I read it a couple times. I hope you'll come back and talk with us more as we all try to understand the impacts of his role in the government.
Well, thanks so much for having me.
Thank you.